give you more knuckle.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of If Live Were an Anime. Today I want to talk about two animes that I recently watched and that really hit me hard. The first was Parasyte and the other one was Pluto. I had always heard that Parasyte was an anime that was worth watching. After having done so, I agree. It's definitely a quality sci-fi seinen anime, and I enjoyed watching it. And also it got me thinking about the ideas that the anime tries to portray, like it's moral to consume animals for food. Are we doing to animals the same thing the aliens are doing to us by killing us and eating us without the slightest compassion? Also, I love the way they frame the parasite creatures as extremely unfeeling but logical. And not only that, but that the parasites themselves recognize that being too logical is actually a weakness and a threat to their survival, because it makes them predictable and blocks them from different ways of thinking about a situation, and that puts them in danger. It reminded me so much of what living with someone with autism is like. Being unable to process social and emotional situations properly is such a debilitating condition, even for humans. And here is the reason I actually enjoyed the show. The transformation of the main character Shinichi, from a normal teenage boy who is rather compassionate, a bit emotional even, to a cold, calculating man who can't even cry when people whom he cared about are dying around him, to again being able to overcome that hurdle and feel again. That whole arc is so important, and I felt so identified with it, as a person who struggles to express emotions and who is autistic. I can relate. The reasons for all these transformations in Shinichi are because his parasite, which is called Migi, not only is using his body, but they're actually sharing it. Slowly, both their personalities start to mingle to a deeper level than other parasites, causing Shinichi to become cold and unfeeling like Migi. And it also causes Migi to become slightly more humane. So we see changes in both characters and how this affects them and their perception of themselves, and that is very interesting. At one point in this plot, Shinichi's mother is assassinated by an enemy parasite, and this is when Migi's and Shinichi's fusion becomes stronger, causing Shinichi to become, to the eyes of everyone, extremely cold. Even his father, who was falling into a deep depression and into alcoholism after the death of the mother, remarks that when did Shinichi become so strong? He tells Shinichi this. He looks at him and asks him, when did you become so strong? But he does not do it in a positive way. What actually means is, when did your heart turn so cold? He actually says, when did your heart turn cold like steel? So it's not a positive compliment, but actually a very deep remark born from disappointment and shock. Did I really raise you to become like this, with a heart colder than steel? Like, can you even cry for your dead mother? It's actually a condemnation of who Shinichi has become, and he knows it. He has been unable to feel this type of grief and compassion, but deep down he knows he should. He is becoming increasingly scared and worried of what he is becoming. He wants to cry, but he can't. And this situation hit me very deeply. I felt identified. I've had deaths in my family, very, very close ones. in which, due to my depressive state, I couldn't cry, although I wanted to. I felt numbed to everything. And this burden of being unfeeling and getting back to work as soon as possible while the world around you falls apart, to disregard grief and time and healing as a necessary process for men, is to me a clear distinctive sign of the result of capitalist exploitation. The more unfeeling you are, the faster you'll get back to work. The less needy you'll be for human connection, the less you'll value your life outside of work, making it easier to exploit you. Also, there's this very strange feeling of shame because you know you're being judged, just like Shinichi was being judged by his father for being so cold. I also felt like that, like people were judging me because I couldn't express my emotions like they did, or in the same way they did, although I felt it very, very deeply. Here I want to mention something about feelings. The philosopher Robert C. Solomon used to say that there's a clear misunderstanding of what feelings are. He said feelings are never actually irrational. We never feel something out of nothing. Feelings are actually very rational. They are split-second judgments. For example, if you go to a mall and park your car, and when you get back from shopping or whatever, you find out your car has been stolen and it's not there where you park it anymore. All of a sudden, anger takes over you, and justifiably so. But at that exact second, imagine that you remember this is not where you actually parked, and instantly the anger fades away. If anger was an uncontrollable response from simply your body, your anger wouldn't disappear the moment you realize no wrong was done to you, and it was your own silly mistake. If anger was irrational and uncontrollable, it would persist. But because all emotions are exactly judgments, that's why a new judgment can override the previous one and make you feel at ease again instantly. Some emotions arise actually from split-second thinking in the form of making a judgment. Am I being treated unfairly? Did I do something shameful? Did I do something brave? Did I get my love corresponded, etc.? All these are actually judgments. So the false dichotomy between emotions and reason is exactly that, false. Because all emotions are, within their own personal context, products of reason. Some humans have a faulty, less complete reason, and might get upset because they make wrong assumptions of how the world should be. And others will respond emotionally less often, as they have tempered their judgments to account for the many possibilities of living in an unpredictable, uncontrollable, and temporary existence. But the point being that, as Solomon says, we should never dismiss emotions as irrational, but it is of extreme importance to be true to our feelings, because these hold very important insights into how we view ourselves and our lives in this world. Emotions, unlike, let's say, mostly logical thoughts like calculating your budget for the day, actually involve physiological responses and are not merely a mental state. Anger or sadness is expressed through bodily reactions, such as an increase in heart rate, tension, tears, and other physical manifestations. Solomon considered sadness to have existential significance. Rather than viewing it as a mere negative or undesirable state, he saw sadness as an integral part of the human condition. It is an emotion that arises in response to the challenges, losses, and uncertainties inherent in life. Similar to his analysis of anger, Solomon argued that sadness is often connected to the perception of loss or the perceived attack of one's values. Again, emphasizing it's not just a random feeling, but something which is an important response to life. It reflects a recognition that something meaningful or significant has been disrupted or is absent. In this sense, sadness can be seen connected to the human capacity for caring and valuing. We grieve because we cared. So when Shinichi is left emotionless, not only is his daily tasks and socializing become more difficult, but also he is losing an important tool for engaging fully with the world. According to Solomon, individuals who do not feel or experience emotions would face significant risks and challenges. Without emotions, individuals might struggle to find purpose and value in their experiences, relationships, and endeavors. Emotions play a crucial role in decision making. They provide valuable information about one's preferences, values, and the significance of various choices. Without emotions, decision making may become purely rational and detached, potentially leading to decisions that lack personal or subjective relevance. We would become confused as to the value of, let's say, something beautiful and how it enriches our lives if we didn't have emotions. We, in a very absurd way, like some do, like the parasites in the show, or some capitalists in the society, might value more something ugly and practical like making money over a beautiful musical composition, a beautiful sculpture. We could become like pragmatic, soulless, mundane, and ignorant CEOs of the world that would simply value making profit over the existence of a beautiful river surrounded by a grove of ancient trees, making us feel entitled to destroy it, despite its beauty and benefit to the whole community, which cannot be measured in terms of gross profit. The more unfeeling people are, the more they're in danger to cause great harm, because emotions have also an ethical dimension. A person devoid of emotions might lack the emotional cues that guide ethical behavior, potentially leading to a lack of moral sensitivity and responsibility, which we see in Parasyte when, instead of giving a dead puppy a proper burial, Shinichi simply tosses it in the garbage, and when his friend shockingly asks how could he do something like that, he simply says that the puppy is just dead meat. However, later in the series, Shinichi is capable of reflecting that although he doesn't feel anything as to whether he should bury the dog or not, his old self would have buried the puppy. So he goes back and takes the puppy and gives it a proper burial, hoping that in doing so, in doing this compassionate action, someday he will feel the emotion of compassion again and not just be able to mimic it. And there is something to say about first doing the action, then through repetition feeling like a person who would naturally do such an action. These themes touch upon as well in another anime that I want to talk about, Pluto, which deals with how robots who are learning to feel like humans, and their conflicts and what are their obstacles and so on. So at one point, one of the robots wants to learn to grieve, and the scientists points to her that first she must mimic crying, and with enough time after repetition, the feeling will naturally arise from the action of crying. And this is actually a very important therapeutic technique for people who have trouble feeling and expressing emotion. We watch media to see the expressions of, let's say, joy or sadness and so on, try to mimic it. This is very true for people who have autism, we usually try to do what other people are doing in certain situations, so although we may not actually 100% feel what they're feeling. And also this plays a little bit in the type of media that we watch. We watch movies and videos and so on, all types of media, to feel, because we want to feel something. There is a catharsis, as Aristotle used to say, in drama, where through the actors portraying these emotions, we, the audience, went through the process of releasing and thereby providing relief from our own strong or repressed emotions within ourselves. So we actually watch all these media to actually feel it, to actually feel what the actors are feeling. That's a very human thing to do. We all love a good tear-jerker movie. The great risks Shinichi is facing, if we go back to Parasyte, is that a person who does not experience emotions may struggle to relate to others on an emotional context, leading to difficulties in forming and maintaining meaningful relationships. Without emotional experiences, individuals may have a limited understanding of themselves and their world, hindering personal growth and self-discovery. And this is very true for people who have difficulty understanding and expressing emotion. They're not fully matured as human beings. Often they will seem immature or cold and distant, and this will affect all of their relationships. So a lack of emotional engagement, like we see Shinichi go through, may result in a shallow or superficial experience of life, with individuals missing out on the profound and transformative aspects of the human journey. Because actions like grieving for a dead friend, burying a puppy, don't make a difference in the eternal course of the galaxies, but they do make a difference in how we engage with life. To be able to shed an honest tear or express our loss through an art form or an honest conversation without vanity or shame or the urge to fix it quickly, but to do it in its own pace and allowing ourselves to experience it. This process is what allows us to fully experience what being human is, and to deepen our connection to life, to ourselves and to others, opening a new dimension of experience that otherwise would remain forever unreachable. The other important process we see in Parasyte is that for the parasites themselves, some even are able to change. They are becoming more emotional, like the character of Reiko Tamura, who was able to reach a degree of emotional sophistication as a parasite that they previously thought couldn't be attained. These characters start developing feelings of love and self-sacrifice towards her human child, although it is a parasite and shouldn't feel any of this. And here is where I want to make the connection between between Parasyte and Pluto. I enjoyed the first episode of Pluto. I love sci-fi that deals with robots and what makes a human human, but I lost a little bit of interest in the series later on when the focus shifted to large-scale conflicts and the war. But the moments where the robots are dealing with their own existence and questioning what actually are they, it's very similar to a process that parasites and Shinichi go through, questioning if they're still truly human since they have changed so much. One particular important moment is when the former war robot known as North Number 2 goes to work for a blind composer called Paul Duncan. The whole premise being that Duncan despises machines and robots, and his hate for machines is so great that he even refuses to get mechanical eyes that would allow him to regain his eyesight, because he feels anything that would pass through a machine wouldn't be the real thing. It would be the false image of the world. But Duncan is an old man who is severely traumatized by his mother's abandonment. Having gained fame and fortune and bought the castle who used to belong to the man with whom his mother escaped with and abandoned him for. Even this, you can tell that this obsession that he has with revenge, with proving his worthiness to his mother, is deeply ingrained in him. It's depressing and has taken a hold over him. We see a man who is broken, a great musical talent that no matter how much he achieves, he still feels inadequate because he was not enough to make his mother stay with him. Then we have North number 2, the second character of this episode, who is a war machine turned butler, who he himself as a robot has a desire to learn to play the piano because he never wants to step on a battlefield again. These two characters are actually deeply connected, both traumatized by their past, perceived as unfeeling and cold beings who just want to feel again. Duncan is obsessed with his final piece, a song evoking the beautiful golden afternoon of his native land, while he walked with his mother when he was a child. But he is unable to finish this piece. Something holds him back. North tries to play the piano, but Duncan berates him and insults him. North apologizes but also mentions that he heard Duncan at night humming a tune in his sleep. Duncan says there are only nightmares and that North should mind his own business. But on another occasion, Duncan finds North playing his song on the piano again, and he gets mad and fires him. And that night, North is seen by Duncan, or felt by Duncan, to be recharging. And also Duncan is able to tell North he's grimacing and making noises of distress. And he wonders if robots could really have nightmares as well. North actually leaves. So Duncan becomes increasingly isolated and seems to miss the company of North. His castle and vast wealth and fame feeling useless and are unable to put him at ease. One day, unexpectedly, North returns. He says he has made a visit to Duncan's native country and that he learned there the song he was always humming. He asked Duncan if he could sing it for him, to which Duncan refuses, but North explains to Duncan that he also knows the true story of Duncan, one Duncan himself never knew, and that was that his mother did not actually abandon him for that man, but that she had to go to that man in order to pay for the operation that would save Duncan's life, and that after the operation, when he was sent abroad, she was unable to tell him properly because of the great emotional resentment Duncan had begun to feel for her. So then North begins to sing and Duncan weeps. Probably this is the first tears he ever sheds since he was a child. And I absolutely love how music is the bridge between these two characters, how they are so similar, both traumatized and having difficulties accepting their past. Duncan is repressing his feelings of love towards his mother out of pride, while North is trying to use music as a way to create a human expression of his own underlying feelings, and how he wants music to finally set him free of being a war machine. Both are unable to feel, but for different reasons, but both are finding redemption in music. I recently began learning piano, and even if my ability is limited, it does allow me for a few minutes each day to express myself and let go. I let the music play itself through me, and it's very liberating, especially for someone like me who is constantly perceived, just like North, as cold, unfeeling, uncommunicative, dull, etc. The reason I identify so much with this story is because I feel both like Duncan and North. Like the gap between me and other people when it comes to expressing emotions is too great to close. My past, with its own share of little tragedies, haven't made me who I am. However, I feel that music allows me to have a release and enjoy myself and just feel the music, which I also think allows me to feel my own emotions better and be able to express them. That's why I love sci-fi, the whole question of what it means to be human, what are emotions and so on. In this world where we can watch a genocide happen in real time, like in Palestine, and pretend there is nothing we can do and go on with our lives like nothing happened, and the UN makes vote after useless vote that changes nothing out of fear of the powerful economies, instead of actually sending people there to help them and fight. It's morally disgusting to be part of such a world. Or, to have a society like ours with this level of technological advancement and not take care of our citizens, of all people, not housing them, not feeding them, not clothing them. As Rick Roderick, my favorite Texan philosopher, used to say, a society unwilling to do so, to take care of its citizens and all of their material needs with the amount of wealth and resources that we have and technology that we have, is a society worthy of contempt. And in my opinion, unworthy of even being allowed to continue to exist. I hope that you have liked this video. It was very personal to me. I may not be able to express my emotions as easily as others, but I do feel deeply when I see an injustice, whether that be right next to me or at the other side of the world. I am never indifferent. I feel even more, I'd say, than most so-called normal people. And I'm glad I'm not like the rest of people. I'm glad I'm not the kind of person that can watch a genocide or watch someone in suffering and pretend it's the normal way that things should be. I'm glad at the end that I'm human.